Hello, my name is Brianna, or Bree for short, and today I wanted to do a video on the dietetic internship. I wanted to create this video because I am personally fresh out of the internship and I thought it might be useful to talk about some things I learned, how I prepared, and my own experience for those that are either thinking about choosing dietetics or becoming a dietitian as a career, or for those of you that are going into your internship very soon. I know I was very nervous the summer before starting my internship last summer. There's a lot. I just didn't know what to expect, so hopefully hearing from someone who has just gone through it would be helpful for you. For those of you who are not familiar with the dietetic internship, it is something that you must complete before you can become a registered dietitian. So you must complete 1,200 hours of unpaid work experience. There are 3 main categories that you will rotate through in order to gain your 1,200 hours. Each program is different, but all of them have pretty much the same 3 categories, which are the categories that you will be tested on in the RD exam. So those categories are community nutrition, so usually some kind of outpatient or teaching, or maybe doing more public policy, things like that. Number 2 is clinical. That's usually in a hospital or just some kind of setting where you're performing medical nutrition therapy. And then 3rd is your food service or management. It's also called the administrative rotation. So you're doing a mixture of management, food service, things like that. How I wanted to structure this video was I first wanted to talk about how I prepared for the internship. Secondly, I wanted to go into my tips and kind of the lessons I've learned from the internship. And throughout, I'll be throwing in my own experience and how things went for me. For my rotation, I started with clinical, and that was pretty nerve-wracking because for me, there was so much information to know. Like, we learned about so many different diseases and different nutrition therapies for all those different diseases. So the summer before I started clinical, I was reviewing my medical nutrition therapy. I was looking, kind of browsing through the textbook we used in that class, but also using, let me go get it. So I was using this little guy a lot. This is the Essential Pocket Guide for Clinical Nutrition. So this kind of takes you through everything. I made notes. I actually wrote down a lot of stuff because writing helps me remember. So for my clinical notebook, which I also recommend doing as your preparation, creating a notebook of all the formulas, all the things you need to know, calculations, basic things about each disease state, like what's important nutrition-wise. So I kind of would look at this, put it into my clinical notebook, and then for any other gaps, I would look at my textbook or kind of use other resources that I had. You don't need to remember every single thing, it's just that you have it somewhere, like you're familiar with it, so that if a dietitian or your preceptor asked you about it, you'd be able to give them a few tidbits showing that you know and you did review before you came. Besides doing your clinical notebook and reviewing medical nutrition therapy or your MNT, some supplies that I acquired prior to my internship were the following. A white coat for the hospital. Some internships might provide you with this, but ours didn't, so we had to purchase our own. I got a shorter one, which was perfect for the hospital that I was at. Another thing, especially for clinical, that was useful was having a clipboard, just your basic one. I think I just got it from Target. It's like $2 or something like that. And then a multicolor pen and a highlighter. Those are, you're gonna be using them every day in your clinical rotation. For food service rotation, something that might be good to have are non-slip shoes. So shoes that are good for working in a kitchen or being around slippery surfaces, because especially in my food service rotation, I was walking through the kitchen a lot. So having those shoes was really useful. I just got basic ones off Amazon. I had actually bought them previously for a different internship / volunteering experience, so I had them already, which was nice. Lastly, something, hopefully you already have this, but if you don't, get professional attire. I feel like this shouldn't have to be said, but it is very important. You want to make a good impression, and you're also representing the field of dietetics as an intern, so especially in the hospital or around customers, or around patients, you want to look presentable and basically not sloppy. So I just had black pants so that it could match with all my different tops, and I only have I think 2 pairs of black pants, so I would just alternate. But stores like Marshall's, Ross, TJ Maxx, you don't have to get fancy clothes. I am someone who is on a budget, which I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, don't spend too much unless you really care or you have the resources to. And then the last thing that I did to prepare was I had a budget. So I don't know if I said this before, but you guys probably know the internship is unpaid. Some sites give you a stipend, but it's pretty minimal. Most do not. It's usually unpaid. So try to apply to scholarships or ask family and friends. Find ways to support yourself, because yeah, you're gonna be working a lot and you need to know how you're going to support yourself and afford different things. And now let's get to my tips. So my first tip is to mentally prepare yourself. Our coordinator did this for us the first day, right before we started our rotations. It was actually very helpful. She basically said, it's gonna be hard, you're gonna feel like you wanna cry, and that's okay, because it's gonna be over at some point. And while at first I was a little, I don't know, it kind of made us feel very nervous and scared, which we already were nervous. I think it was good to manage our expectations before, because yes, a lot of times you think it's going to be a certain way and it's totally different. So just have low expectations going in, and then it can only go up from there. That's kind of my view. Just know that it is going to be tough. Some rotations will be awesome and you'll get along with everyone, and others might be more stressful. Maybe there's drama, or maybe you can never please your preceptor, or maybe the other departments don't really like talking to you because you're the intern. There's just gonna be different things you can't predict. So just know, personally, I didn't cry during my rotation or because of it, but there was one day where I did feel very overwhelmed, and I just felt like I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I held it together. But if you do, no judgment. It happens to a lot of us. Tip number 2 is to bring your best game. You are representing not only your program, but yourself, and this internship rotation could possibly lead to a future job. So bring your best game, be prepared, get there on time, treat everyone with respect. Your preceptor is the authority in this situation. Maybe you don't agree with certain things they do, but they are your preceptor and they are the ones who are the dietitians, so do what they tell you to do. You are the intern, basically. Even if you don't want to work there, maybe they know someone that will connect you to a job you really want in the future. The nutrition world is pretty small. Everyone kind of knows everyone, so don't burn any bridges early on. My tip number 3 is learn self-care. This is one of my lessons, because yes, I knew I had to take care of myself, but I think during this internship is where I really put those skills into practice, because some days are so exhausting, just mentally, there's both physically exhausting days and mentally exhausting days. I found that clinical had me mentally exhausted every day because I was constantly like questioning myself, like, did I do that right? Could I have done that better? Did I forget something? You're just always going through all the things, like, did I check this? Did I look at that lab value? There's so many things, and there's a lot of different patients you might have to cover on that day. So I was mentally exhausted from clinical. So I learned a lot about self-care, getting enough sleep, eating nutritious meals, having snacks because the hanger is real. Doing things to de-stress, but that also meant sometimes not being so hard on myself. Maybe I had plans to do something after, or I wanted to get all this cleaning done, but sometimes I just had to let it go and be okay with that and be okay with just resting, because that internship can take it out of you at times for sure. Another thing related to that was letting go of my routine. So I really like having a routine, and in some rotations I was able to maintain, like maybe going to the gym or going for a run, but other rotations where I was commuting a lot every day, I couldn't really fit in movement. So just coming to terms with the fact that, okay, in this rotation it's okay, I'm not going to be able to do as much movement as I would want, but that's okay. I have to not stress myself out in other aspects because the internship is already enough. And number 4 is being flexible. So like I said before, your rotation or certain schedules might not go as planned. So stay flexible. I know this happened to me a lot, where maybe I was supposed to go to this floor in the hospital one day, or I was supposed to be with this preceptor one day, but then they had to switch because maybe someone was sick or had jury duty. So just be flexible, go with the flow. That's honestly kind of what I had to do. You just have to in your internship. Things are not going to go as planned, and that is a-okay. You're gonna get your hours, you're gonna finish, you're gonna become a dietitian, so it's all good. A tip related to the budget is to have some money set aside for emergency situations. So an example, in your internship you're going to be driving a lot. Depending on where your internship is, you might be driving a lot. So here in LA, a lot of us had to commute pretty far for different rotations. So having money set aside basically for any car emergencies would be useful. I know one friend, she got a flat tire. Another fellow intern had her car stolen in the middle of her rotation. It wasn't at her rotation, but you know, she had to figure that out. I personally had my car battery stolen and broken into the first day of one of my rotations. So I had to spend money to fix the car and replace my battery. So that was pretty stressful because I didn't really take that into account before I started my internship. So hopefully you guys, if you have a cushion, like a little emergency car cushion for yourselves, that would make you feel better, because you never know with cars. Another lesson I took away was to see this experience as training, but knowing that you're still learning. Like, you're not going to learn everything in this internship. It's only, 9 months only 9 months. So at times I was hard on myself, like, gosh, I should be better at this by now. But really, it takes years to become good and to really practice these skills, especially when you're rotating so much and doing very different things. Seeing this as growth and really focusing on your growth rather than how well you maybe do something. Another lesson is practice saying things out loud. I'm someone who gets tripped up on my own words, and that can be quite awkward in front of a client or a patient. So on my way driving, I would often be saying different like scripts out loud, just practicing so that I had the words down, it came out smoothly, things like that. Maybe you're really good with your words, but I'm someone who struggles, so that was helpful for me. Be proactive. Some rotations you'll have to ask to see more, or you want to learn a specific thing, ask your preceptor about it. They have a lot on their plate, they're busy, they're working full time and have you to kind of train, so they might forget certain things and it might be really important for you to see it. So always be proactive, ask, hey, I was really interested, or I really wanted to see this. Do you think I can? Like, is that possible? Can we fit it in someday? Or if you want more feedback from your preceptor, maybe say, hey, can we schedule a meeting on Tuesday? Like, do you have a chunk of time where we can talk about things I've been doing well or things I need to improve on? Things like that, so you can get regular feedback and really keep improving. And last but not least is to listen more and talk less. I learned this in my outpatient rotation because I was one-on-one with clients, and as an intern, we're very excited to tell everybody about nutrition. I mean, we love this topic. This is why we're in school for it and why we want to become dietitians. We love food, we love nutrition, but sometimes talking so much can be overwhelming, and you're also not getting to know the client or the patient's story, their challenges. So that is something, I know we learn it, but to really practice it in your rotation is a big lesson that I took away, was to just not talk as much, listen more, ask a lot of questions, and really be curious about who you're talking to, because each person is different and they're all in different situations, so cater accordingly. Hopefully my tips, lessons, and the stories I have from my internship are helpful for you. Just remember that you got this. It is going to go by very quickly and you will be a dietitian very soon. Be grateful for where you are, because a lot of students would love to be in your position. So even through the tough times, just remember, like, okay, I'm here, I'm getting through this, I'm almost there. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to comment down below, or if it's something more private, you can find me on Instagram, and I will try to answer as best I can. I'm wishing you all the best of luck. You guys can do this, and yeah, reach out if you need anything.